the current ordinance does not allow chickens. Because we're still in the pandemic, I would ask anyone who's not vaccinated to please wear your mask for CDC guidance. You can remove it if you're making comments so that it can be heard then. This is a listening session only, and an actual decision will be made at a later date. We want staff to gather the information we get tonight along with emails and correspondence we received in the past. I'll allow up to 3 minutes for each person's comments. Hopefully we can move right along. If it's just that you want to say yes or no, that you're for it, that's fine. Please state your name and your address very clearly so we can record it, so we've got it for our minutes. I'll ask that all remarks should be made and addressed to the board and not to each other. With that, I'd like to start. I do want to tell the folks that the board members did get tonight a package of all the emails we received, both pro and con, and undecided, I guess. So we do have those for your reviews as we go through this process. With that, I will ask for the first person who would like to speak.
Okay. So I'm Alex Hepp, and 1400 7th Street, Plover. And I'm kind of leading this, so I've got some information to give out to each of you guys, just put together my brochures.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And most of the information in this brochure I've already addressed with you guys last year, but I did put in some more information. Do you guys want me to?
Thank you.
I know after the meeting last year, there was a talk about coyotes that we hadn't talked about at the meeting, so I did got some information on that. Want each of the tables? Can I?
Then they'll get when they come in.
You want it? Yeah. Anybody else who wants to come up here? Alright. So this is just going over the things that we discussed last year. Nothing much has changed, but I did address the coyotes because I know that you had brought that up, Mr. Davies, before. And I found information on it that there's already coyotes in the area. There's been coyotes here forever. It's a result of urbanization. It's not based on chickens. Small cats, rabbits, squirrels, all those kind of animals bring in coyotes anyways. So chickens aren't going to make coyotes come in more or leave. They're already here. So I have that information in here if you want to see that. And I have all of my sources too. I didn't bring the sources this time, but if anybody wants a source list for all this information, just let me know on my emails on the back and I can email you the sources. So I guess, does anyone have questions? I can also go over all the information in here, but it's the same as last year, so that's up to you.
You got your 3 minutes, so you can do whatever you like.
Oh, okay. Yes, what do you guys want me to do?
You can go over some of that stuff.
Okay. Well, also speaking to people, so there's not a lot of people here tonight, but the kids and I have been going door to door, and I can say that we haven't really had a lot of opposition. And those people who have been opposed to it just didn't really understand what we were wanting to do. So most of the people were saying, well, I don't want chickens running all over the village. And those were the people who were opposed for the most part. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to say that there's going to be set specific guidelines. It's not just, okay, go out, buy chickens, throw them in your backyard, let them roam free. It's, no, if you're gonna do this, it's the same as having a dog or a cat. You need to get them licensed. You need to make sure that you have the proper housing. It's the same as any kind of animal. So we would be setting specific guidelines, and I'm willing to be the person to go around and volunteer my time to check on all these coops. We can have people apply for a license who want to get them. And I don't think people are just going to be hordes of people buying chickens. You know, I think there's a specific community who wants them, and then other people who either don't really mind or just are going to get them themselves. But speaking to all of my neighbors, they all want chickens, so they were sad when we found out that we couldn't have them and had ours taken away, which we did rehome ours when we found that out. But as for the information, I did put that they're allowed. Is that my time?
Yeah.
Okay.
You keep going, you're speaking to the group. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I did put that they're allowed basically everywhere else. Plover is the only place that is not allowing them. I mean, they are allowed in Whiting, the town of Hull, Wisconsin Rapids, Stevens Point, Appleton, Madison, Green Bay. And then since the pandemic has started, over 30 other municipalities across the nation have now allowed chickens. Because with the pandemic, people are more concerned about providing food for themselves. So this is a means for people to take care of themselves. And then here talks about Mike Wiesa. He said that they've been allowing it in Point for several years with no issues. And then Janet, you have information from the sheriffs, or you the one who got, or you Denise? Do you want to speak about that information? 'Cause I don't have that specifically, but do you want to talk about that? So Denise has some more information. She spoke to some of the people in Stevens Point, so I'll let her.
Can I speak from here?
Yes.
Okay.
Just state your name and address, please.
Denise Anderson, 2300 Heatherton Lane, Plover, Wisconsin. I went ahead and contacted Stevens Point Police, wondering what any ordinances, had they been on any calls? And Officer Bob Cuso said I can state what he had said. They have not received any calls, and they have not been dispatched for any calls. He did talk to the police chief, and he did talk to dispatch. The only police people he didn't talk to was the department that actually issues the certifications for these people to have their chickens in Stevens Point area. Now, I did contact the Portage County Humane Society. They said that records for Portage County and the sheriff are records that I can obtain. I have not obtained them yet, but they do have records from 2018. The numbers of chickens that they had to go and take because they were free ranging out there. It is not even filling 2 hands.
It was less than 10, right? 9 maybe?
9, but I don't want to speak to it anymore until I get those records. I know that there has been a concern that these animals might be a disturbance. I'm willing to create a class. I'm a family consumer science education teacher, also taught at the university as well as the Stevens Point School District. And for people who do not have knowledge on how to take care of this animal, I'd be more willing to provide a certification class similar to hunting license, 4-wheelers, firearms, and driver's license, so that these people can become educated and learn how to care properly for these animals, so that they are not running loose in the Plover area. So I did talk to people in my ward as well as another person in my ward offering my services. So thank you for your time, and thank you to those 3 people that I listened to today, or
Thank
listened
you.
during the lunch.
Thanks.
And then did you want
Anyone
to-
else? Sir?
My name's Tom Lim. I live at 2421 Riverbend Court, Plover, Wisconsin. And it sounds like, the people here are very diligent in taking care of their chickens. The problem is, what happens when people aren't? Who's gonna bear the burden of the enforcement if there are problems? And while it says, you don't need a rooster to have chickens, if people have chickens and they want a rooster, what's gonna stop them from having a rooster? We're gonna have a part of an ordinance for that, because roosters are noisy. And they wake up, darn early. And the other thing, I guess, in my viewpoint, I know coyotes, foxes, all kinds of animals roam Portage County. There's a lot of rural areas to Portage County. But if chickens are loose, if someone doesn't care for their chickens properly, doesn't close their hen house, whatever, coyotes and foxes do eat chickens. And sometimes they carry disease. I just don't like that idea of attracting more of them, or potentially more of them into the village. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for your input, really appreciate it.
Anyone else?
If I can just address a couple of things. My name is Lisa Crockett, 2821
My address.
Golden Road in Plover. Just a couple of those very same issues. Those are excellent issues to be concerned about. As far as the coyotes specifically, I have directly spoken with the person who handles the coyote maintenance in Portage County. The name is elusive at the moment, but I do have that information, and she said very clearly that the chickens will not attract any more attention than your neighborhood cat or dog that would attract another coyote in the area. And in fact, most of the coyotes stay along the Little Plover River line and do not venture much into the residential areas. They're more concerned about the garbage from your garbage cans than they are from having an occasional chicken walking around. So that's a bigger concern than, the actual chickens being a problem. Oh, and the roosters, absolutely, that is a concern. Roosters are on the list as far as that would not be allowed. And in speaking with the mayor of Stevens Point and the other municipalities that do have ordinances to allow backyard chickens, they have no issues with that. Occasionally, someone will get what's guaranteed to be a hen, turns out to be a rooster. They have 1 week to dispose of that in a proper manner. Typically, it gets sent to a farm. So that has not really been an issue for any of them. There will accidentally be a rooster that hatches, and they have 1 week to get rid of it. It's not an issue whatsoever.
Do you wanna state your name and do you sign? No? Okay. He was gonna state his name and do the sign, but he decided not to, I'm sorry.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Paul Kostahusky. I live at 2510 Eastland Drive, Plover. I've been a resident for over 40 years in this community, and I highly object to having chickens in the village. We can have discussions, but I want my neighborhood to stay a neighborhood. I don't want it to become a farm. I've objected to zoning laws as far as utility buildings, you name it. This is a village. It should stay a village and not farm shed. If the chickens are going to be raised, they should be raised outside of the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mike Albinger, 925 Torrey Pines Way. My vote for this ordinance is a no. And I strongly encourage all the village board members to also follow that no. Just what some of my concerns are, village resources being used to police this or monitor it. We have limited resources, our taxes are high to begin with. We don't want resources being pulled for that. And we're going to need that in order to police it or enforce it. The other thing I consider, if you are considering, any of you board members considering a yes vote on this, consider please the lot size that are allowed for the chickens. Limit the number of chickens, possibly 2. Female, we talked about that, female hens only. Licensing, just like we do with our dogs. We need to license these chickens. I also believe there's something that residents would need to register with the state, so if there is an issue, the state can contact these residents who have chickens to notify them of issues out there. I lived in Sheboygan County prior to coming to Portage, to Village of Plover. The town of Wilson allowed chickens. It has now morphed into ducks, it has morphed into roosters, it has morphed into a lot of things. They don't have the resources to monitor and police this, so it's up to neighbors upon neighbors. Please don't go there. So again, I ask you to strongly review all the pros and cons as you move forward with this ordinance. And again, I vote no on this. Thank you.
Any other folks who'd like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Priscilla Clendenning. I live at 1920 Roosevelt Drive. I came here tonight having no idea this was gonna be a big thing. I just thought, I want my grandkids to be able to have chickens, so I came to voice my opinion for yes, I wanna have some backyard chickens. I've been to my friend's house in Stevens Point. She lives on Main Street. She has 5 backyard chickens, and she has kids, and everything's great. She got them from a reputable animal provider. They had their vaccines. She follows all the sanctions of the city. Her kids love them. It's like therapeutic for her. Not only that, they get the eggs, they eat the scraps, they eat the bugs. They save the poop, which is called gold, in the manure supply, whatever. And they put that in their garden. And in this day and age of environmental friendliness, I would think chickens of all animals, like dogs and pets, at least the chickens are like sustainable. They are, contributing to our environment by giving us all these things and doing all these great things for us. They eat all my scraps. I don't have to throw anything away. They gobble it all up, turn it into eggs, turn it into gold. I put it in the garden, and I completely understand with the sanctions that were mentioned by these fellows over here and such about there need to be rules. Like I said, there need to be vaccines. Make sure they have vaccines. No roosters, no running around. They have to have the correct corral and coop area, all those things. And I think even with that, it should be okay with the neighbors. I think, maybe we should ask our neighbors if it's okay. And if that's not okay with our neighbors, well, maybe we should second think it. But I have 12 grandkids. I'm excited to hopefully have chickens in my garden and everything like that. So that's what I got to say about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Okay, I live in Whiting. I'm Lauren Crockett Klein. I live in Whiting.
And share address and everything.
It's 135 West Willow Street, so it's right on the border of Plover and Whiting. And all of my neighbors, we are yet to get chickens, we're going to get chickens. All of my neighbors have chickens, and they contribute. It's kind of fun because the neighborhood all shares. Like I take some of their manure, I garden, and I share my garden supplies, whatever I produce that year, with my neighbors, and they share their chicken goods with me. So we get our eggs from my neighbors, and they get my garden supply. And I think that the chickens in our neighborhood, they're allowed in Whiting, and we haven't had any issues. Maybe it's just my neighborhood, but we haven't had any issues with the chickens. So that's my thought process on it. I think that chickens are, like she had said, they're good for gardening, they're good for community, I think, too. It's brought a lot of us together. We share, and I think it's important for everyone to be allowed to have, it's just another pet, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Robert Barber. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I live in 2111 Norway Pine Drive, Plover, Wisconsin. If the village decides on this, there's obviously going to be a set of rules. And if you don't follow the rules, they get taken away, just like anything else. It's as simple as that. I'm a realist. You set guidelines, if people don't follow them, they lose their chickens. That's how I feel.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dahmers on 3510 Baroque Court, Plover. And I don't see why this is a big deal. I don't see why there can't be a trial period of a year or 2 years or whatever. Obviously, Stevens Point, the downtown area, they have a successful program of monitoring, and it's going well, and there's no issues. So it would only make sense to model anything of what they're doing. It's obviously a successful program. I don't know about anyone else of my neighbors, but we have far more bigger problems of loose dogs, loose cats in my neighborhood that are just running all over the place. And it stresses me to see all the backyard pools without any fencing. I don't know how that bothers me too. But the loose pets, my dog is 120 pounds and he barks pretty loud, and he barks over my lawn blowing neighbor at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And so I think it's kind of like comparing these chickens to, you can't even compare it to a dog, because they're just a small flock of females. I just don't understand why it's taking so long and why it's such an issue when it could just be a trial basis to see how it goes.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Janet Barber, and I live at 2111 Norway Pine Drive in Plover. I'm in support of chickens. I think it would be great for our kids to do 4-H, teaches them responsibility. I know that it's been brought up to social media, sharing the meeting today, and I would say at least 85% of the people who commented were for chickens, or they weren't for or against. Not that everybody wants to run out and get chickens if it's passed. It's not like every household is going to go and get 6 chickens and put them in their backyard. But I agree with this woman here that maybe a trial period. You know, you do have to register your chickens with the state in case there are any types of bird flus or anything that occur. They are less noisy than dogs. 5 chickens produce less feces in 1 year than 1 dog does. And I can tell you, on Roosevelt, the field there, people are constantly walking their dogs and they do not pick it up because it's a field. So we have irresponsible dog owners as well. It just happens. But they get their privilege taken away. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Can I respond to a couple of things that were brought up?
I would rather just get the comments out. I
The
don't want to
kids
get
wanna
into
say something.
discussion.
Is it okay if the kids do a little chant for you? They practice. It'll take like 10 seconds. Okay, go ahead, guys. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, you wanna just do it on your own? Do it with Buddy? Go ahead, Lorelai. Go ahead. Okay, it's all right. Just go ahead and do your little chant. It's okay. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to do it. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, that's okay. Do you want to say it once? Good practice in the basement for like a week. So. You sure you don't want to do it, honey? What if I do it with you? Oh, okay. Can you do it with your brother? No. Okay. They have to go. Sorry. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Anybody else?
My name is Mike Engelkis, and I live at 1201 8th Street. I've known the Hoffs for a few years now. I kind of watched as they had chickens for a while, and I see the effect that they have on their kids, being able to, pick up the eggs, take care of the chickens and stuff like that. I hear things like it is going to cost money to police this. I don't know if that's been talked about prior to me getting here, what kind of monies we're talking about. Obviously, some of this is already taking place into Stevens Point. So I guess until I would hear numbers about, this is what it's going to cost, I don't know whether it would be an exorbitant amount of money or maybe just minuscule. I would agree that I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that, if you want chickens, you're probably a more responsible individual, and you have a purpose for having them. So I don't believe that you're going to have all kinds of folks that, now that this is an approved ordinance in the village, are going to go out and start buying chickens. I just don't see that happening. When we talk about policing, when we talk about licensing, and again, I was here for the first part of it, I think it'd be a little presumptuous and maybe even a little naive to believe that people license their dogs. I'd like to know what the compliance rate is of that, but I have a feeling it's probably less than 50%, but I might be wrong. So my whole point is I just don't see where this is going to be a big burden. And I see, and again, I've only known the Hoffs, and I shouldn't say that, I know like 3 other families that currently have chickens.
Well, they're in violation. Can we get their names?
No, no, you can't. But that's the irony of this whole thing. I think there's a lot of people, there's more people that are probably housing them than what we are, we're willing to admit. And I just think that, again, of the people that I know that have them, they're responsible individuals.
Well, they're not responsible for the fact that they're not obeying our ordinances, so it's the only downbeat to that.
Okay, I grant you that. I would concede that point. But as far as how they're housing in the areas in which they're keeping their chickens, it's well done, because they've got a purpose, and they want to make sure that they're raising healthy chickens and stuff like that. So I would urge or recommend that I don't understand how trial periods go, because once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag. And but I think that there's a lot of positive things. I understand other individuals that have got some concerns. I mean, I'm not naive to that either. but I just don't know that there's enough of a risk. Again, I don't see a lot of people all of a sudden now that this is a passed ordinance, if you would, that are gonna say, oh man, now I can't wait to go get my chickens. It's just, I just don't see that happening. I appreciate you guys, the time that you've given us, so thank you.
Can I get your name and address again? Should you get-
Well, I don't know, are you gonna check on me? No, it's Mike Engelkes. Engelkes, 1201 8th Street.
Okay. Anyone else? I do appreciate your input tonight. We will consider this. We will bring it up in the next, another board meeting. I'm not sure the next one, which one. But we do want to discuss, there's a lot of things that we do need to discuss about. There are some downsizes, there's upsides. We want to figure that out, but I think the board has got the information they need from you. So we will be able to go forward with that. Thank you very much.